Hi everybody, welcome to Animate 2016 panel. I am sitting here with Matthew Wood of audio star of many things, both in front and behind the window of audio engineering. Yes, indeed. So let's take it back from to the beginning. Hudson Hawk.
Oh
and Leonardo da Vinci's fingers.
That's right. Yeah,
Tell us about that.
That was the pivotal moment in my career. No, that actually just came up. I was a young kid working at the video games division at Lucasfilm. I started there when I was about 17 years old. And
you were working in a video game thing at 17?
Yeah.
Boy, you must have been the envy.
It was a hard job testing video games all day. But the Industrial Light and Magic, which is George Lucas's post-production visual effects wing of the company of Lucasfilm.
Really?
Yes. They had a need for some insert shots. They were doing the VFX for Hudson Hawk, and they had shot on the production side. They had shot all the master shots of the actor playing Leonardo, but they didn't have the sort of alchemy crystals that he was holding. They didn't have those done yet, so they basically recreated his torso with me and the hands manipulating those things, and they were magnetic and it was all practical effects.
Yeah.
But they had to do that on a soundstage. And so they said, we need somebody with long fingers to come and be Leonardo. So I ran down there, and they gave me a manicure and tanned my hands a little bit. It was so funny. And then I had to, basically the camera, they had to shoot it like it was my perspective looking down on them, and it was a big 35mm camera. So I guess we're gonna stay here, actually. So 35mm camera, where I was bent back like this, and they just put the camera down like where my head was, and I couldn't see what I was doing. They go, okay, open this, move that thing.
A little more to the left, a little more to the right.
Introduction to film, the film world.
Oh wow, that was just a tap on the shoulder. So you started as a game tester.
Yeah.
All right. So and how? When did you decide? You know what? I think the sound guys, that looks like a good gig. What led to going from that to that?
I just wanted to work for Lucasfilm. I was, teenager, and Star Wars totally affected me as a kid, the original movies, and I was a gamer, and I was on this bulletin board system. It was pre-internet, and I saw that there was a job opening for a quality assurance technician that was called in Nicasio, California, and this is when Skywalker Ranch was a hidden fortress.
Yeah.
You didn't know where it was. You couldn't Google map it. No one had any idea where this place
It was legendary among fandom, and again, it was spoken of because again, those pre-internet days, they were like, "No, the ranch, man."
Yeah. So
that and the archives,
which
were it's in a mysterious warehouse and nobody knows where it is. That's where all the props are.
I went to that too.
You went to that? Oh,
it was funny because so I saw that there was this quality assurance technician job, and I was working at a library, and so I went on this thing and I looked at the census data of Nicasio, California, and I saw that it was all cattle farms and some agriculture businesses, and one restaurant, and then Lucasfilm was there, so it was listed. So I was like, a quality assurance technician in Nicasio is probably going to be something having to do with Lucasfilm. Mm-hmm. So I put in a resume, and I was like, Dad, how do I make a resume? And I said, what's it for? I said, for video game testing. He goes, I don't know, just put all the video games you play and on a list, and give them sort of your stats, and put some interesting facts on there too. They like to see that.
Please say you typed it.
It was typed with Mac Write. I used that on my old Macintosh, and then when I printed it, it's interesting facts, and it says, in excellent health, living with parents. So my dad had a fax machine. He was doing he had an import-export business with Japan, and it was just easier to communicate that way. And those were really expensive back in the day. It was you didn't have them in the house, and you invested a lot in this business to do that. So I found out through a little bit of social engineering on the telephone, where their fax number was, and I faxed my resume, and I got a call back, and they said, this person calls us Matthew Wood. I was like, yeah. This is Lucasfilm. This is Rochelle from Lucasfilm, and did you fax your resume to us? I said, yeah, that was me. She's like, no one's ever done that, and that went to the top of the pile. And,
wow.
And we sent it over to the video games guys, and they want you to come in for an interview. So I put on my best '90s bolo tie and pierced ear, and I like tried to be like some like hipster kid. And I went down there and met all the guys, and I just fit in really well, and I just kept testing. And so that was the main sort of computer division that was going on, was games.
Yeah.
And so George Lucas wanted to make a program called Sound Droid, which was a nonlinear audio editing program, and we were going to use it on the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles TV show that he was just starting up. And that was going to be like our testing ground to make the Star Wars prequels.
Okay.
And so he said...
Got any young indie fans out there?
Yeah, that's a while ago.
Yeah.
He said, we're going to... we'd like to have a tester come and try to break this program. So he just said, let's get whoever your best guy is at games. And so my boss said, this is Matt. And so I met everybody, and I started on Sound Droid, and I started working on that program, and then that naturally progressed.
Specifically to break it.
Yeah, working on Young Indiana Jones, and then that technology over the years became sort of industry standard, and we sold it to Avid, and it's part of Pro Tools, and that was the journey there. So now I supervise crews, and so and I'd always like the acting thing. That kind of came naturally too, because I'd done acting in plays, and I was in a local theater company and all that, and then but my day job was so good that I couldn't go out and like go audition places, so I just ended up just using my voice, because it's the same audio equipment that I use to do that.
So you literally went through almost a classic apprentice system.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes. I mean, no formal audio engineering training.
No.
You were literally just.
I had computer. I was all self-taught, but I had my parents thankfully bought
kind of in the Ben Burt family tree.
Yeah. He was my mentor for sure, because he was a director on Young Indy. He had taken a break from doing audio work and went into directing. We did an IMAX film, a couple of IMAX films, and then he started on Young Indy, and that's when I met him. And then when the prequels came around again, like in the late 90s, he wanted to get back into the system, and it was all digital. So he said, "Can you teach me this?" Because I knew all the digital stuff.
Yeah.
And then he knew all the old
classic tape,
analog and tape and sound design and all that. So I got to learn from him, and he got to learn from me, and we became really good friends. He still works at Skywalker. He's probably been there almost 40 years.
Only a Lucasfilm with true life, the master learns from the students.
Yeah, it was very like that. Yeah, we had a great symbiotic relationship as far as like I could teach him digital, and he was super with it and like really took to it fast. And then he could teach me sound design. The first thing he gave me my task on the prequels was to do the pod race for episode 1, which was really fun. It was
pretty much the signature sequence of that movie.
Yeah, we spent months I went out on recording expeditions, recording helicopters and jet boats and Ferraris and all kinds of stuff, and I would bring it back to the studio and we'd manipulate it and change it. And George really wanted each pod to have sort of a distinct feel and sound and personality based on who was driving it.
On those journeys, did you ever just have a one-take eureka moment where just something you recorded like, that's perfect for exactly, I don't need to do much to it. That is perfect.
A lot of it is, recordings, Skywalker.
Because even that, going out and doing that stuff, that's kind of just guerrilla style.
Oh, yeah.
Even for that time, that was kind of archaic.
We don't, Skywalker has this thing where we do, like, we try to be organic about what we record. We try to go and get real sounds in the world and not synthesize them.
Yeah.
And we have a gigantic library now. There's over 40 years of films we've done at Skywalker. The Star Wars stuff we keep separate, and we keep it, special to Star Wars. You don't hear TIE fighters in any other movies. It's, we want it special for that. And because that sound is really that connective tissue that's almost all emotion and subliminal. With Star Wars, like, even on the Clone Wars series, which my colleague David Acorn and I did 100 plus episodes with, it's that real connective tissue where you hear those lasers, those lightsabers, R2-D2, and it takes you back to what you saw when you were
it's a little off-putting when in the 70s and 80s I would occasionally hear a sound effect from Star Trek. Some other sci-fi property. Once a blue moon, I would hear something as a kid. Wait a minute, that's the photon torpedo launch sound.
On cartoons.
Or that's the sound of the actual phasers and stuff. And it's kind of like a moment where you want to imprint that. That's actually pretty good though. That's everything's sequestered.
Yeah, we keep that separate. But then there is a gigantic library. Skywalker Sound. We do the films of Spielberg, Pixar, We do James Cameron stuff. We do some of the Pirates, Caribbean movies. We do. I mean, the building is always booked, and all that material that we're going out and recording ends up in our massive library. So I can just do a search on, rock fall, and there would be like 900 different effects I could choose from for that, and it would just compiled over the years. So it's a very unique place for that.
Have you personally ever used the Willem screen?
Oh yeah. We put that, I put that in everything. I mean, there's some other little calling cards that I'm putting in there. This is a screen. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's
there's a legend.
This Ben Burt found this really interesting old tape. I think the movie was Charge on Feather River.
It was an obscure little western.
And he found this tape of they were trying to get this voice actor to make a screaming sound when he was going to be bit by an alligator. And so the director, you can hear him like, all right, you're being bit by an alligator, go. And he's like, oh, and he makes all these funny scream sounds. And they're really unique, and Ben thought they were really funny, so he took one of those out of that tape and started putting it in every film he worked on. So you can hear this scream, this really funny scream. It's called Wilhelm because the character who was playing the character was called Wilhelm in that tape. So that
there's YouTube compilations of it, and the craziest thing is that if you're not familiar with it, the second you hear it, it'll pull a trigger in your head. You're like, oh yeah, the stormtrooper.
It's in every Star Wars film. It's in all the Indiana Jones movies. It's in a lot of it. We put it in Force Awakens just recently. But there's some of my colleagues, David, Acord, and myself have been putting this other screen that we've got in a bunch of films and seeing if people notice, but we'll see.
Nobody's picked up on it.
We're not. We're just keeping it on sort of.
All right, that's an Easter egg. You guys give me the first. Did you have a question, dude?
I was gonna say actually, in the movie Ratchet and Clank, I don't know if you've seen it. They recently had it.
Yeah.
They actually had the Wilhelm scream, and then the robot yells out Wilhelm.
Oh, that's great.
That's
really funny.
It was really funny.
That's really funny. A lot of people have used that. It's great.
So you spent all that time on that side of the equation. We jumped into that the Blu-ray remastering. What was that like?
Oh, that was fun. I mean,
going back and walking in the footsteps of mentors and giants. Was there any anxiety about that?
Yeah, I mean when episode is this my water?
Yeah.
When
I don't get water. I'm not telling.
Oh yeah, okay. I had to buy this actually. We re-released episodes 4, 5, and 6 in the late 90s. It was the special edition that was put out in the theater. And like Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, the way they were made and archived and saved was a lot better than the way New Hope was done, because they'd already knew that Empire and Jedi were bigger than your average film, and there was a lot of interest in them, so they really were properly archived. And so remastering them was not as hard as New Hope, because when New Hope was made, it was, it was a kind of thought it was it's just this cheesy sci-fi film. Didn't have a big budget at all. They had to do the sound work at night on a night shift on a random stage in Los Angeles. And
my favorite anecdote about the development of episode 4 is in the movie Jabberwocky by Terry Gilliam. In the director's commentary, he talks about how it was being filmed at the same time as New Hope at Pinewood Studios, and guys' grips and everything were running over saying, "Can we jump this movie and work on yours, because they don't know what they're doing over there. This script doesn't make any sense." They were like begging to ditch this gig, and it's like, yeah.
So that film wasn't really, it was just kind of thrown after it was finished. It was kind of put in a box like, well, this is it. The film's going to be released, and there's no other life for this later. So I had to go in. When I had to remaster it, I had to go back to the very original elements of the movie and go find the original tapes that were recorded of the actors on the set, get all of Ben Burt's original sound effects, go back to the masters of the music, and then take all that and put it back in synchronization with the picture again, and then remix it. And it was a huge job, because back then, when they did a mix, when they were doing the balance of dialogue and sound effects and music and how it all sounds in the theater, there was no automation. You couldn't, when you hit record to do those things, there's no way to replay back all that what you've done. So you kind of like feel like, okay, everyone ready? Here we go. We're hitting record. Okay, let's stop after like a minute. Okay, how do we feel about that? That's good. Okay, great. Because if you have to redo anything, all those components have to be redone. And now today everything's automated, so I can just slice in for like a tenth of a second and move this one gunshot around. But so Star Wars, the first one, to be able to have to remaster that and have it feel like people remember it, and so it's all the right material, but it now is expanded into this Blu-ray format where people have home theaters now, and they're expecting this when the Star Destroyer comes over at the head at the beginning of New Hope, it's going to rumble your subwoofer. And if I played the original tracks back just without any remixing at all into a Blu-ray, it'd be thin. People would be, that's not what we remember. So you have to enhance it for the soundstage of today, but also keep it true to the balance. And so that was the only film in my entire life, David A. Court and I, where if I was watching it and something was not right, it would like trigger something in my DNA because I had watched it, 100 times as a kid.
Yeah.
So if one little thing was wrong, you'd be like, no, that's wrong, So we got it. It took a year to get that thing back in shape.
Yeah.
And it was super fun.
Now, were you involved just in the restoration? Did you also have anything to do with the newly inserted things? Did you do the?
Yeah, we did all that.
You did all that.
Everything. It was basically a pretty small team on that.
Yeah.
It's like I had like 5 people that I was working with.
So that was existing footage, of course, still.
Yeah.
But the Ian McDermott's reinsertion
Yes.
in episode in Empire. How did that go down?
Yeah, that was just we had Ian available to us. I believe that was around the time we either did episode 2 or 3.
Yeah, because I remember it broke the internet when somebody leaked his personal itinerary, which was like pick up shots episode 2, and then there was some handwritten note about Empire recession.
Yeah. So we did that. I think George never was really happy with the way that the makeup looked on the original Emperor scene, and the fact just now that there was prequels that had Darren and he was playing.
Personally, I'll always have a soft spot for that.
Emperor. Oh yeah. I mean, wherever you see the movie, whatever generation
that you imprint on
it.
That
imprints, and I totally understand that. I mean, we went and when we were recording Tamura Morrison for Jango Fett, we actually went and recorded George one recording session. He was like, let's get Tamura to do Boba Fett's lines in Empire. So that's now Tamura Morrison as Boba Fett in Empire, just because they wanted to have that continuity.
Yeah.
So, and I understand when things change, wherever you see it, you're going to feel very emotional about that being the original and all that. Star Wars certainly elicits lots of discussion about that particular subject.
Yeah. But we're going to keep this friendly.
Right.
Keep this friendly. So you're already well established. At what point did you get on the other side of the glass? Was it just meant as a stopgap, or was it like, hey guys, no, really, let me try this voice?
I'd always been offered things just out of convenience. It would be like, hey, we need. In Young Indie, I did a lot of voice work for things because the production might not have been recorded correctly. If he has like a fight with somebody, I'd have to do all the fight efforts for the guy he's fighting.
Yeah.
And so I really got into doing that. And then also when you do sound design, sometimes you use your own voice as a tool to affect, like if you're doing a creature or an alien or something, or a mask or something with a mask on. And so Grievous was like that character. George wasn't totally sure how he wanted the voice to sound, so we had put out this casting packages for.
Wasn't Gary Oldman at one point floated for the part?
Yeah, no, he came in and read.
Yeah.
And we had all kinds of actors do it, and George never got consistency what he wanted. And I remember we were getting way down.
We all know George likes consistency.
Yeah, exactly. So when we got down to the end of the process, the producer Rick McCallum was really getting nervous because the voice is what the last animation of how the shoulders and head moves and the timing of the walking and all that was tied to that. So Industrial Light and Magic was like, if we want to get this movie done, we have to have a voice in here. And so the last package, mainly out of almost frustration too, my colleague was like, hey, you've recorded all the actors that we've done for this, and we've signed off on what the process of his voice is going to sound like, how it's going to sound being pushed through that cybernetic voice box. George had approved that.
Was the cough always there?
No, actually.
I was like, yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, so
I know you have a story about this.
We the last casting package was probably a group of like 15 actors, and my friend Chris Garabosio that I work with, he said, give it a shot when you try it too. And I was like, no, you've listened to everything. Just put one in there. Just do it. So I did one. It was like the opening scene, and that was the same audition we had for everybody. And I put it in there, and I labeled it a different name. I didn't put it my name. I just put everyone's initials of actors, who they were, and the file names, and I sent those to George. And I didn't really hear anything for a few days. And I went about my business, and then the producer called and he said, "Hey, George picked a voice. He's got one, so we got to get that actor in now. Like, we got to let's do this." And I said, "Well, which one did he pick?" He said, "He picked AS." I was like, "Okay." So I went back to my key, and I was like looking down the key of all the actors, and there was no AS. I was like, "Oh no! Like, I didn't organize this right. Which actor is it? Now I'm gonna have to go back to my notes." So I was looking at the other list. I was like, "There's no AS. There's no AS." And I was getting nervous, like, "Oh, I don't know who that was." And then I realized, oh, it's like me.
Wow.
Because I put Alan Smithy. Alan Smithy is sort of like this like pseudonym that film people use when they don't want their name to be used or they want to be anonymized. Mm-hmm. So I remember just instantly being like nervous. Just my hands started sweating. I was like, I can't believe this. I never thought.
Am I gonna get in trouble?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Yeah. My hands were getting sweaty. So at lunch, I saw Rick McCallum. He's like, "Hey man, what's going on? We need the name of the actor. We need to do this, you know." And I said, "Well, Rick, it's me." And he's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, it's me. It's my voice." "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, He's like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And I said, "Just tell him. Yeah, just tell him it's me." So I leave lunch, he leaves lunch, and I know, like, I'm thinking there, he's probably having a conversation right now. And I get a call, and it's like, "Hey, Matt, it's George. I hear you're Grievous." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, that's great. I'll come back tomorrow, and we'll record the whole thing." And I was like, "Okay." So
all right.
he came down, and
the Emperor has spoken.
Yeah, so he came in, and we recorded. And it was funny because he had a cough that day. George had this really bad chest cough, and I shouldn't laugh about it, but
he's still alive. It's okay.
He's great. Yeah, he's doing just fine.
Yeah.
So I would go to the mic, and I only practiced that first line for the audition, and then there'd be a lot of lines that were like, is this gonna go? So there'd be a lot of lines that were like,
Anakin Skywalker, I expected someone with your reputation to be a little older.
And like you'd have to
Push your voice like this.
the whole time, and it was I'd kind of stutter or cough because I wasn't used to doing long stretches of the lines, and he was like, no, that's good. And I'm like, well, I'm a sound person too, so I coughed on those 2 takes. Those are probably not good. I should do another one. No, that's good. We'll leave it. That's weird. And then at the end of the session, he was talking, and he had a really bad cough, and just super coincidentally, my buddy Chris, who also was the one who suggested I should do the voice, he was like, George was coughing, and Chris just went to the mic, and he started. George was near the mic, and Chris just recorded those coughs, and then. So when I processed all the voices, we processed those coughs and sent them up to George as well. So some of the coughs of General Grievous are George Lucas, which is pretty great. Yeah, I thought that was awesome. I was really excited that happened.
That's fantastic. And that kind of opened the door for you for the other characters for the most part. You're like, okay, he's got chops on that.
Yeah,
so.
It was fun. I mean, like a lot. You can just see how journeys happen and how you get to a certain place. Like I never would have felt confident enough to do something like that, to even audition that way, if I hadn't taken the time to be an actor. I'd done lots of theater work, and I enrolled. I just between episode 2 and 3, I'd enrolled in this American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, and I did this really big program that was like 60 hours a week between, and I learned so much, and I got so much confidence from that. It gave me the ability to audition and feel good about it, and then that opens the door, obviously, when you do something with a very big movie. And it's funny, I didn't tell anybody.
How does that work for you now, though? Because is it just a case of, like, do you hear about something and you get like, hey, can I read for that?
Yeah, I do.
Or is sometimes you get approached and say like, hey, you want to read for this?
Well, it's Skywalker I get for the other films that are happening in the building.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Hey, man, we need somebody like in Jurassic World." They're like, "We need you to be these Navy SEAL guys that are running in to try to kill these dinosaurs, and we need you to say." Someone needs to say, "Is that the Gallimimus?" Or like, you need to have a line that pops out, and they'll be like, "Can you do that?" You know, so I do a lot of that, and that's all like Screen Actors Guild, like real work, and I do that for Marvel, and I've done it for like Jurassic movies, and so I keep busy there. But and I have an agent in both San Francisco and LA, and so they send me stuff as well. But then they'll have legacy characters that I do for, like, for instance, there's a show we're doing right now, Lego Star Wars: The Freemaker Adventures, and it's got one of the characters is a reconditioned battle droid from the Clone Wars, and so I did all the battle droid voices in the Clone Wars, so they called me for that one, and that's been really fun. That show's really sweet. It's actually
Roger.
Really, yeah, it's like
Roger, Roger.
yeah, those are those are really fun.
Outstanding. So, what's the big thing on the horizon that you may be allowed to talk about?
I mean, they don't let me talk about like the voice stuff or any acting things that are happening, but the fact that we've got a Star Wars movie coming out every year is really
I heard something about that.
Yeah, that's really fun. I mean, we're deep in the post-production process on Rogue One. We should be finishing that up by Thanksgiving, if all goes well.
I was about to say, I hope so.
Yeah.
Doesn't it come out like a few
Yeah.
weeks after that?
It's funny now with all the digital distribution and the way things work, how down to the wire you can finish your movie. And sound and doing the final color correction are usually and the 3D versions are usually the last things we do in a film. So there's a lot of pressure at that point. Like, let's get it done. But I mean, with J.J. Abrams, I did 3 of his movies. I did I worked a little bit on the first Star Trek, but I did Into Darkness, and then I did Super 8.
Yeah, that's it, Super 8.
Yeah, and Star Wars, but he likes to take it right down to the wire. So literally, we'll have someone from the lab like sitting in our mix room waiting for us to like, okay, stop, record, and then they pull the hard drive out and a removable encrypted drive and run it to the guy who runs it somewhere to make their 3,000 copies or whatever.
Is that a habit, or is that a stratagem to prevent people from interfering with the final cut?
You know, maybe both. I know he loves intensity. Like, he likes people to be really hyper aware of what they're doing, and so when you're under a time deadline like that, even if you feel like you've got your game on completely good, like it'll rattle you a little bit. Sometimes happy mistakes happen where you make something that you didn't think you'd do, or out of desperation, or I don't know. I think he loves the crew mentality of everybody working all on the same thing at once in a very intense manner. And I feed on that too. I've been doing this job now for 26 years, and it's the same job that I've had for 26 years, but it's different directors, but I love that team feeling, and we're all working on something. And then we have the amazing...
And you're in-house, right? It's not like you go gig to gig to gig.
Yeah,
you're a permanent staff
I'm
member.
at Skywalker Sound. I'm a full-time employee there, so we are project-based, but there's always projects. So just that feeling of just putting something out in the world, and then we also have the added bonus, that's that fun thing of like, it's Star Wars or something that you work on that has an international appeal, and that's the thing that with our purchase of when we were purchased by Disney, that gave me some more scope of just like, Disney's this company that's been making movies for 100 years or whatever, and they've incredibly figured out the market and how to make movies. And I'm really happy that George Lucas, when he wanted to retire from filmmaking, that he didn't just close the doors and we were all laid off. He made an effort to give us to a company that really was going to protect that.
I'm so glad. I would have hated to see you be out of work. Just your new resume. Let's see here. Oh, Star Wars.
I'm not living with my parents anymore.
Oh, so you were nominated for Academy Award, but you didn't win?
Didn't win.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
well, you know
sorry.
what? Don't call us, kid. We'll call you.
We're gonna call the Mad Max guys. Yeah, no, that's no. I'm just happy that, because Disney's really they've been great with their track record with Marvel and Pixar and companies, and making good films, and those companies get to do the films the way they want them to do them. So
from your perspective, sound design, everything on else, not in a proprietary situation, but what's the next evolution of that technology? What is the Blu-ray, the 3D? What's the next evolution of sound?
I think that's going to be, like, going to digital was a huge deal. I mean, that's
Yeah.
changing the way that films were made for 50, 75 years, whatever it was, to a whole new way of making movies. And then, but I see now that almost like the way video games are made, like the VR experience, or when things are done in real time where a viewer has choice to move around and change perspective, and it's totally based on the viewer's own personal experience, and it's non-linear and freeform. I think that's going to start coming into being, and that changes for us and everybody. Like, you basically build assets of, this is like, if it's, you know, this room, it was a scene in a movie, every single thing here would need to have sort of an algorithm based on, like, if I pick this up and shake it, like, what's the sound of how it makes here? You hear it one way, you guys in the back row hear it another way, so it's like algorithms to sort of, you build a movie in assets and then a set of rules around that, and then you have to sort of hope that everything's going to interact together. Like, you know, it's happening already.
Yeah, I mean that's one step closer to the holodeck.
Yeah, well, it's happening.
Yeah.
We've got a division at Lucasfilm called ILM X Labs, and we're working on that next gen stuff. And I worked on this project called Trials of Tatooine, which was a VR experience you can get with I think it's on Steam, and it's for the various, you know, VR formats.
Yeah.
But it's it's really simple. You're on Tatooine, the Falcon lands in front of you, it's broken down, you have to kind of fix it, and at the same time some stormtroopers come down and start shooting at you, and then you take off. And it seems very simple, but everything has to be like in a video game. It all has to be every permutation of a free world experience has to be ruled out, like made with a list of algorithms and rules. So it changes the filmmaking process in a way that like the final mix of when we sit down in a movie theater sized room and we're making all those judgment calls. It's more of, now you would experience it, and there'd be testers in a way going into the experience and trying things out.
Almost like you'd need, like, the main team would be the baseline medium sound, and you need separate teams for, like, the back of the sphere, middle of the sphere.
Well, I met a lot of the guys from Electronic Arts, because they're doing a lot of our Star Wars licensed material for video games, and met all their sound division heads and kind of talked to them, and they have people that are specialists. Like this person is an artillery specialist. He's recorded a million different guns in a million different ways, and he knows what guns sound like on the other side of a valley, in a cave, in a car, and so you basically have to build these.
I love that a person like that exists.
Yeah,
you know, I just love this guy who's like, oh, that's a German 88 from about 60 yards away, maybe from the European theater around 33. You know,
they know that
like guys are like wine tasters or something.
Yeah.
You know?
It's true. And that he's like the artillery expert, and they have a long time to build the show, and I think the next evolution of that would be like an animated series or something that's built in that format. I'd love to see that be done. That's probably you wouldn't exactly go live action yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just my own personal
theories
on that, but I think that's the next gen stuff that's going to start happening. And I think VR now is to a point where it's not what it was like in the 90s, where it was really blocky and laggy and not a lot of frames per second. Now you can really do this stuff in your home with it's still expensive, but it's not super out of reach. But I think that augmented reality and virtual reality are going to get to the point where it's going to be enjoyable.
That's nice. So when's LucasArts going to do a new version of Sam Max? God damn it.
I know. Yeah. I love that.
Let's. Anybody have any questions?
Anything at all?
Anybody else? Yeah.
It's just us here.
Girl in the back, and then we'll hit Mad Max. Yeah.
What was your first impression of General Grievous?
My first impression of Grievous? I'd seen the animatic version that's kind of like a video storyboard version while we're working on the film, and it was kind of blocky, and I just saw he was kind of hunched over, and the voice that was in there for a while was just one of the members of our editorial team, just kind of speaking the lines. I didn't really know what to think until the first image I saw was what they put on Star Wars Insider magazine. I actually have it at my table. It's the head, the shot of his head, and it was fully rendered with the bone and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, this is creepy. This is really great. And I actually remember thinking, who's going to play that? Like, how are we going to do that? You know? And it didn't have a moving mouth. It was just a bone that was down there. So I knew that like that would give us the ability to kind of wait for a while to get, because there was no lip sync of the bone movements. But yeah, it did call to me a little bit. I remember feeling like, I've heard that interview that Anthony Daniels does about seeing the first image of C-3PO that Ralph McQuarrie made, and he said it was calling to him. I remember thinking like something about it. It reminded me of a vampire, and I was
Nosferatu sort of.
I was a goth kid growing up and in high school and all that, so I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's like this gothy kind of guy, and I remember thinking vampire, and that's actually what George Lucas said. I mean, not so much like a Nosferatu, but he was saying that he wanted an Eastern European kind of Bela Lugosi kind of thing going on there. So it all worked out, because when I come back to do that audition, I spent some time in Prague on a vacation, and so I was in Eastern Europe and hearing this accent a lot, and so that's why it went that way.
Back when you could vacation in Prague.
Yeah. Now I can't. This is my vacation right here, enjoying it. Yeah.
So Mad Max, wait.
Oh, I had a question.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of the Star Wars generals and such have a little Purina
Oh
square.
yeah, the little squares.
Yeah, I saw it on your ID. I didn't know.
Oh yeah.
If there's any, how many reds and how many blues.
Yeah, I don't
tells you
actually.
what rank
It's funny.
you are. Or...
The 501st could answer that question.
Okay.
I think they're downstairs.
They're right by the autograph area. This is I got inducted as an honorary member into the 501st fan group, which is great. They're such a cool organization. They really do a lot of charitable work, and they're very have a high standard for the costumes that they wear. They really are supposed to be screen accurate, and they are. They're amazing. We have Lucasfilm calls upon the 501st a lot for official events, and they're great. But yeah,
they have standards. I'm 5'5", and yes, I am too short to be a stormtrooper. So I could be an officer.
To be a Jawa.
Yeah, I'm in that null state.
But I often wonder about what all the different things mean. And I was joking with my friend. We were watching a scene, and there was someone that had like a bunch of them, and I'm like, well, I never see one that has the things popped out. Like they're always the thing is always just as big as the squares are. So I'm like, boy, that's a lot of waste. So what do they do? Do they recycle those? They're like, oh, you're a general now, so I guess you take this one out and you just put it in the bucket with like, come get one for the next guy that comes in after you. We're thinking about this kind of thing.
Well, you see, he's got 3 Sith crystals, and he's got 3 blue Jedi crystals.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
It's like swastikas of the fuel source.
Exactly.
He's killed 6 Jedi.
Exactly.
So.
Collected their Padawan braids.
Yeah, better than Wookiee scalps as it is. So, well, a little more than 10 minutes, but I hope you had a good time.
I definitely did. Anyone, any other questions or
anything?
anything?
Yeah, dude,
Yeah, this isn't about Star Wars, but James Cameron, Johnny Depp, and Brad Pitt, they all became vegans, and they all have their own story. What is your story?
Oh, why I did that? Just it's out of obsessive compulsion. No, no, I don't eat meat. I don't know. I had a bad turkey sandwich about 25 years ago, and I never went back. I don't know. I mean, I love animals. I do love animals, like, and so I just kind of coupled with the fact that I live in California and there's a lot of good meat alternatives, like in any store you ever go to, so I can eat healthily. And
I admit I'm baffled when I go to LA and go to restaurants. It's like, do you have anything that doesn't have arugula in it?
Yeah.
Not that I dislike arugula, but just everything in California has arugula in it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of where I go with that.